Danced all night with a bottle in my hand, with a bottle in my hand, with a bottle in my hand. Danced all night with a bottle in my hand. Sometime or another, give the fiddler a dram.
Give the fiddler a dram.
Yeah, give him a dram.
Why not give a little fiddler a dram, all right? Danced all night with a bottle in my hand, with a bottle in my hand, with a bottle in my hand. Danced all night with a bottle in my hand. Sometime or another, give the fiddler a dram.
In the pines where the sun never shines, we shiver when the cold wind blows. The longest train I ever saw went down that Georgia line. The engine passed at 6 o'clock. The caboose rolled by at 9. Oh, in the pines where the sun never shines, we shiver when the cold wind blows. Well, I asked my captain for the time of day. Said he throwed his watch away. A long steel rail and a short cross tie. I'm on my way back home. In the pines where the sun never shines, we shiver when the cold wind You cause me to weep, you cause me to roam, you cause me to leave my home. Oh, in the pines where the sun never shines, we shiver when the cold winds blow. trouble in mind, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always. The sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. Trouble in mind, I'm blue. My heart is sick and sore. I never seen so much trouble, Lord, in my life before. Gal, she done left me. I'm about to lose my mind. Sometimes I feel like living, sometimes I feel like dying. I'm going down to the river. I'm gonna take me a rocking chair. If the blues don't get me, I'll rock on away from here. I'm gonna lay my head on that lonesome railroad line and let that 219 train ease my worried mind. Trouble in mind, I'm blue, but I won't be blue always. The sun's gonna shine in my back door someday.
When it's peach picking time in Georgia, apple picking time in Tennessee, cotton picking time in Mississippi. Everybody picks on me. When it's roundup time in Texas, the cowboys make whoopee. But way down in old Alabama, it's cow picking time for me. A bluegrass in old Kentucky, Virginia where they do the swing, and Carolina I'm a coming back to you to spend the spring. Arkansas I hear you calling, I know I'll see you soon. That's where I'll do a little picking underneath the Ozark moon. When the cotton pickers pick their cotton, then I'll pick a wedding ring, and I'll go to town and pick a little gown for the wedding in the spring. I hope that preacher knows his business. I bet you he can't fool me. When it's peach picking time in Georgia, well, it's gal picking time for me. When it's peach picking time in Georgia, it's gal picking time for me.
so dreary. Alone I sit with broken heart, thinking of my lonely darling. From her forever I must part. A rose she sent me as a token. She sent it just to light my gloom, to tell me that her heart is broken, to cheer me before I meet my doom. She wrote, I took it from the garden where once we wandered side by side. But now you hold no hope of pardon, and I can never be your bride. The judge would not believe my story. The jury said I had to pay. So to your rose and all its glory, not guilty is all that I can say. Goodbye, sweetheart, for in the morning I'll meet my Maker and repose. And when I die at daylight dawning, against my heart you'll find your rose. There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy and me, oh Lord, for one. Oh, fill the glasses to the brim and drink them down as one to the health of the girls who work in the house they call the rising sun. The only thing to a gambler is a suitcase and a trunk. The only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drum. Go tell my youngest sister not to do like I have done. Stay away from that house in New Orleans they call the rising sun. Clover that I overlooked before. One's for the sunshine, seconds for rain. Search for the flowers that bloom down in the lane. Now there's no use explaining. The one remaining is one that I adore. I'm looking over a pretty little four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. Pretty little four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. Yes, I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. Each night brings sorrow to my heart. Tell her, I'll be returning soon. My love's still true, though we're many miles apart. Tell her, dreamy Georgia, and sick out of my head, but I'm a plumb fool, but I'd have read. If I'd have listened to what Mama said, I'd have been a loving old I'd have read. I'd read, I'm a plumb fool, but I'd have read. I'd read, I'd blue, I'm a plumb fool, but I'd do. Down to Carroll up in the slops roll down. I'd read, don't you know, you can't track a rabbit when there ain't no snow. I'd read, I'm plumb fool, but I'd read. I'd blue, I'm plumb fool, but I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's old Fiddlin' Red Heron. He's gonna saw off a little bit of the Arkansas Traveler. Son, get some rosin in your eyebrows. Have a fiddling spree. Here he goes, boys.
If I had a needle and thread as fine as I could sew, I'd sew my true love to my side, down the road I'd go. Bile and cabbage down, bile and cabbage down. The only song that I can sing is bile and cabbage down. If I had a scolding wife, I'd whip her sure as you're born. I'd take her down to New Orleans, swap her off for corn. Bile and cabbage down, bile and cabbage down. The only song that I can sing is bile and cabbage down. Johnny held two fingers up, the teacher she said no. Johnny said the joke's on you, it didn't have to go. Bile and cabbage down, bile and cabbage down. The only song that I can sing is bile and cabbage down. I'm thinking of blue skies above, dreaming of Virginia and someone I love. No more I'll stray I'm on my way to a certain one, I'll say, in the blue hills of Virginia, where the tall pines kiss the sky. How my heart thrills in Virginia when the love shines in your eyes. In the evening you're a picture so fair, mellow moonbeams kissing your hair. In the blue hills of Virginia, I hope to win you, sweetheart mine. To old Smoky Mountain, back to that old hometown of mine, where the birds in the trees and the honeybees cling to the honeysuckle vine. There's a little girl who's waiting, praying each night and day for me. Back to old Smoky Mountain, back to my home in Tennessee. Back to my home in Tennessee. stop a while and listen to my story. I've just come down from the hill. I went there to find my childhood sweetheart, mid the roses and the whippoorwill. I returned to look for the old pine tree that haunted my memory so. It was there, she said, she'd be waiting for me when we carved our hearts long ago. But the old pine tree was gone, still my love for her lingers on. They cut down the old pine tree and they hauled it away to the mill to make a coffin of pine for that sweetheart of mine. They cut down the old pine tree. Still she's not alone in her grave tonight, for there my heart will always be. Still they cut down my heart when we drifted apart, and they cut down the old pine tree. You have listened to my story. I'm going back to the hills just to be alone among my memories, with the roses and the whippoorwill. I had promised her I'd soon return and bring back a gold wedding ring. Underneath the old pine tree we would be wed when the first rose bloomed in the spring. But the spring has come and gone, and the old pine tree is no more. They cut down the old pine tree and they hauled it away to the mill to make a coffin of pine for that sweetheart of mine. They cut down the old pine tree. Still she's not alone in her grave tonight, for there my heart will always be. Still they cut down my heart when we drifted apart, and they cut down the old pine tree. Well, I'll be down to get you in a taxi see honey, you better be ready about 8:30. Now, dearie, don't be late. I'm gonna be there when the band starts a-playing. Remember when we get there, honey, the two steps, I'm gonna have them all. I'm gonna dance out both of my shoes when they play those Jelly Roll Blues. Tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutter's Bar. When they play those Jelly Roll Blues tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutter's Bar. Sweet bunch of daisies brought from the dell, kiss me once, darling. Daisies won't tell. Give me your promise, oh sweetheart, do. Darling, I love you. Will you be true? Daisies brought just for you.